things what we're going to talk about. And today, one of the most common topics for joining with another podcast, another day. We are recording this podcast in summer of 2024 with another interesting topic, which is very known topic, but not knowing much from the industry, and that's the reason to have the guest and the conversation on the podcast to talk about those scenarios, what those things are, and especially help people who wanted to transition and want to learn more about it. Usually I get questions from the people with the bachelors and masters, all type of people with the degrees and somewhat of experience from IT, what they want to transition. And it depends what level you are, maybe experienced person in the field of audit but wanted to transition in cybersecurity. These are the talks, these are the things what we're going to talk about. And today, one of the most common topic across the industry, across the cybersecurity, is all about red teaming and blue teaming. So if you don't know, that's fine. So we're gonna walk you through that. We'll go into the scenarios, the use cases, what tools are there, and how important it is, whether it's on-prem environment, whether it's a cloud environment. It really doesn't matter. So again, these topics we're going to cover. We're going to talk about network security, application security, infrastructure, what tools are there. So there's a lot to cover in this session today. But that being said, I'm not going to talk about all of that stuff myself. I have a young, talented person, Aaron. Aaron was on my podcast previously a couple of months ago. Aaron Ferraro is a cybersecurity analyst. He's got a ton of SAN certifications. He's very technical, deep into the weeds, and that's why I think he's one of the good subject matter expert to talk about all these topics. So, yeah, Aaron. I mean, I can take a few, I don't know, minutes just to talk a little bit, and then we get into the actual podcast topic.
Yeah. Thanks again for having me on. I'm really excited to be here, and yeah, I love talking about this stuff. This is my bread and butter, and yeah, just a little background, I guess. Yeah, like you said, I'm a cybersecurity analyst at a bank. Before that, I was prior Air Force 4 years. I did ICS, so I was in the industrial controls shop there, and I did everything from setting up servers to you know risk and governance, risk compliance work, consulting with developers on our energy management software, and so wide array of experience there, and yeah, currently finishing up my degree at SANS, doing so I'm on my 8th GX certification.
Nice.
I just finished up my GX certified forensic analyst. Fantastic course. Highly recommended to anybody.
Mhm.
Expert level stuff run by Rob Lee. Great stuff. And yeah, so I'm ready to
Yeah.
jump into the blue team stuff.
Yeah, and you know what? What you just mentioned is certification. Maybe later this year, I wanted to have a 20-minute session. Just go to all 8 certification. What you did, how did you do it? What did you exactly learn? What are more beneficial versus other ones? So definitely, it's another good, interesting topic we want to touch base on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We could do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely another podcast on that.
right. So we have a number of topics I outlined today, and I want to start with around something. Every organization, whether it's a startup, whether it's an existing organization, they have their application infrastructure, whether on-premise or in the cloud, exposed to the internet. When you're exposed to the internet, gone were the days where manually somebody will scan your servers like 20 years ago. That's different. Now everything is 24/7. Everything through scripts and AI and all those things are there. The chat, but the bots are there. A script has been written, tons and tons of things there. So as soon as you bring up your server, if you have open ports like 3389 or something along the line, within 5 minutes your machine would be down. That's for sure. So there is scans or all these things are happening. So this pretty much kind of actors are there looking out for some machine or infrastructure which has some weaknesses in the system, vulnerabilities in the system, which can then be exploited. Maybe they have a motivational aspect of it or not. They can make the misuse. So how do we protect that? How do we deal with that? What is skills and all that? So based on these scenarios, okay, this is the actors and activators who are working on that. But what an organization can do, hey, I got to have a team similar to those hackers and attackers just to prepare myself for these kind of attacks, what we call proactively. So this is where the concept of red teaming comes in. somebody you want to have an in-house build, and then I'll let also get some comments from Aaron. But that's the idea: an organization to defend themselves for such type of attacks. There are so many known attacks already there, appliances, products available. They have those predefined cases. You can have protection around that. But it's still, one weak point, one vulnerability can really can cause the damage. So what do you have to say, Aaron, about that?
Yeah, so I want to start with, I think something that doesn't get talked about enough is network visibility and
Hmm.
ensuring you have the proper logs and the proper feeds coming in to your, whether it be your seams or your XDRs, getting all of that information aggregated and making sure all your endpoints, all your servers, everything that's exposed and internal, you're tracking it, right? Because
Right.
if you're not tracking something, I mean, I can't tell you how many organizations I've seen where uh, they leave a server, a dev server online,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not logging it, they're not tracking it, and eventually a bad guy is gonna, a threat actor is gonna find their way to that server, and if they have access to that server, one example is that recently happened is Microsoft,
Hmm.
um, Midnight Blizzard.
Yeah.
They got into Microsoft a development environment that
Oh,
Microsoft
yes.
or a test environment that Microsoft left online. It had a very weak password because I'm assuming they were just testing stuff. So it was very
Yeah.
weak password. They sprayed it. They got access. Once they got access to that server, they were able to create their own application that allowed them to pivot to a
Oh,
production
yes.
environment. There's
I
more,
remember that.
I'm going over the broad details, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's way more
To dig
technical
into that.
details, but they were able to pivot to the production environment and then gather the emails, gather source code, and all kinds of stuff through that through that test environment that, again, they probably didn't have eyes on. They're a massive
Yeah.
organization, and you've let go, you've let them take their time to figure out how to pivot,
Right.
which if you're on the red team, and I'm pretty sure I've heard somebody from Black Hills Information Security, very popular MSP and pen testing group out there. They said that, if we get to your environment, if we get in, we will escalate to domain admin. It's just a matter of
Wow.
time, right?
Hmm.
You give them enough time, they're gonna find their way.
I
They'll find
see.
something. So,
Wow.
um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
huge.
So yeah, I mean, well, yeah, it's all the visibility, and these are the fancy term these days, observability, and so many things are coming. But going back to the basics, you need to decipher your environment. You need to know your environment. Hey, I have these VMs and OS and applications. So visibility is just not about you're watching and monitoring your Windows, Linux, and Unix server. As you just mentioned, if a developer is writing a code, how do you make sure that code is written secured enough that it's not exploiting or leaving any weaknesses for somebody to do the pen test, or somebody to do a scanning of the code and then penetrate in your network, and guess what, the databases don't have any password, or you have a flat network. So again, in a nutshell, or in an ideal environment, if you have to compare with the physical security, let's say if you go to the airport, or if you go to the Penn Station in New York City, there are surveillance camera everywhere. And the airport is one of the biggest good example. Surveillance is there. The same thing. The moment you bring any new device, application server, Windows file server, or a network, network switch and Wi-Fi, whichever it is, you gotta make sure you have the full visibility. That's the basic fundamental things, whether it's a prod environment or even a non-prod environment. You gave a perfect example. If there's a non-prod environment, then how do you make sure that's completely isolated sandbox, and they should not have any connectivity no matter what? But again, if those environments are used from the same laptop, then guess what? Laptop get compromised, right? So you're looking at those. So again, it cannot be 100% secure, but you can have a defense, layers and layers of defense, and then make it hard for them. It's all about buying the time, basically, as
Right.
you just said. The more you can process those layers and have them delayed, That's the idea, right? So what are we talking about? Like you saw talking about network visibility, intrusion detection.
Yeah.
So are you talking about IDS, IPS, logging infrastructure? Then you also mentioned SIEM. I mean, this is one of the very broad domain. If we spend 2 hours, I'm sure we are not going to be fishing it
Yeah.
today. But let's start from there. And what do you think? And also, you deal with this, you see those. Also share your side of your plate, and help audience understand how these things work on the blue side of the team.
Yeah. Yeah. Just I'll touch on real quick the network baselining and the architecture baselining, right? If if you're coming into an organization or a new job, uh, or even your home network, right? If you don't know what's normal in your network, and this is where visibility comes in to play very heavily, is if you don't know what's normal in your network, what activity should be going on, uh, then you are blind to the malicious activity anyway. Even if you have all the alerts and everything popping up for you,
Hmm.
if you can't differentiate from false positive and normal to true positive,
Hmm.
you're left blind anyway. So
I see.
uh, gathering that, taking the time to really learn your infrastructure, right? Like you said, should this test environment be communicating with this production environment? And if it shouldn't, as soon as that connection takes place, boom, red flag. I already know I need to investigate what's going on there.
So,
Or
so let's talk about a little bit, because this is a very good use case where I've seen often, um, you know, these things, something you will not see out of the box in any product, and this is where I wanted to emphasis on that. And this is where it can help somebody to chime in and brush up your skill. You have to learn your environment and create those custom alert. So as you just said, how would you know something should happen or should not? First you need to understand what should be happening in your infrastructure. So start with knowing, okay, I have 50 Windows boxes, 10 Linux boxes, or 5 Unix machine, and or 20 Mac box, whichever. So once you have the baseline, then you have to develop those scenarios and build your customized alert notification. And this is where those kind of skills will help you, whether you're a career starter or even if you are a new experience. I mentioned, if people coming from GRC, if you're coming from audit, or somebody in IT for 10 years wanted to start in this area of expertise. So these things and this critical thinking basically is going to help, because uh, knowing these things and coming up with that gonna help. And just wanted to add while I'm speaking is that even this is something where you go and chat on the chat bot, or what you call Microsoft OpenAI, chat
the
GPT would not
the
help you yeah,
co-pilot.
Cobra, they would not help you. You have to come up with those. Hey, help me with this. How do I troubleshoot? It will not tell you, hey, go just create those. No, that's AI is there, but this is where the human intelligence will make more sense. So go, yeah. So that's, I
You,
just wanted to emphasize on that.
yeah, absolutely. You have to ask questions. You have to ask questions. You have to be, I mean, sometimes when, you have to be annoying about it, right? Like you have to ask over and over, hey, is this application legit? Is this supposed to be executing? Is somebody supposed to be executing sudo commands and copy commands? And what, is somebody supposed to be looking at the shadow file on this box? Is this you? You know, who else is supposed to have access and not supposed to have access to this box? And so you have to ask the questions. That's the only way you're going to be able to learn your network or your infrastructure. You have to ask questions. And that could be intimidating, right? It's like, so for me, I'm an introvert. I'm not uh particularly out there extroverted and want to talk to everybody, but you have to get out, you have to ask questions.
Mhm.
And that could, again, human intelligence, right? It comes back like the AI cannot help you with everything. It's
Right.
really, AI is just a tool to help you, you know
Right.
be
Mhm.
better at a task. It's not going to answer all your questions. It can't. It,
Absolutely.
Taxes was feeling unwelcome. Now Taxes is an open door to TurboTax stores. Meet our experts. They do your taxes, so you can walk out with confidence. Now, this is Taxes.
Yeah. So is something you want to add more to the baselining? Is there baseline configuration setting something you want to touch base on?
Yeah. So, back to we'll go back to the seam and
Mhm.
your XDR or whatever tools you have in your environment. Um, Baselining, that's where it really becomes critical, right? Because I've seen environments where they have no rule set up. They just have the base. They install the seam. They get logs sent to the seam,
Mhm.
and it's I mean, tens of thousands of alerts. I mean, it's all false positive or mostly false positive, alerts, and you need to figure out how to filter all of that down. I mean, ideally, you want, depending on how big your organization is, how much activity is going on, ideally you want to get it down to maybe a couple hundred. Ideally it would be less than 100 every couple of hours. If you can get your alerts, and then that way, if you're getting 50 alerts, 60, 70 alerts every, I don't know, 3 4 hours, it's something much more manageable for one or two people to look at,
Oh yes.
as opposed to, because if you have 10,000 alerts a day, right? And you have two security people, right, looking at those alerts.
Impossible.
It's
Yeah.
you will miss something. They will miss something. And
Of
if they're
course.
only looking at critical, you know, one of the big things, and it's a theme across all of my certifications and classes and stories that I hear, is the critical alerts come at the last, like, that's when they've executed something and it's already too late.
Too late.
The
Yeah.
low and the medium and those alerts are the ones that have the bits of information that is going to lead you to preventing the attack from happening.
Right.
One of the things I'll mention is, for example, WMI event consumers, right?
Yeah. Windows management instrumentation. Yep.
Right. They're a very abused tool for threat actors, to run malicious processes and execute and download their tools and install and run executables. Those will usually come in as something that's on the lower spectrum, right? It's going to be on a lower alert level, maybe a medium, a low. It
Mm-hmm.
depends on the environment and how you have it set up. Um, but creating a custom rule to trigger, hey, every time some executable runs from this WMI
Mm-hmm.
uh, executable, you want to have it triggered as a high alert and
Right.
send. So those things could be crucial in determining whether or not your organization is breached, or something truly bad happens, like a
Right.
ransomware attack or data exfiltration, or stopping it. And
Mm-hmm.
so coming back to the seam and the network baselining, it all ties together, right? It's not just, you can't rely on these tools to do all the work for you, because a lot of these techniques, I mean, the threat actors out there aren't staying stagnant.
Yeah.
And if you look at the dark web and those threat into, if you read the articles in the news out there, or the cyber news, um, there's always stuff on the dark web. Hey, I got this tool, I can bypass CrowdStrike, Falcon, and all the big name
Yeah.
EDR platforms. I have a tool that, and it may or may not be true,
Mm-hmm.
but they're always out there improving and getting better, right? And so you can't rely on just these tools to do your job for you. That's
Yeah.
why I think, again, back to your point of AI will not do the work for you. It just
Right.
won't. You need the human intelligence there, because the AI is only going to learn after the human has determined this is malicious, or
Right.
this is some new kind of malware, and then they put it out there, and now the AI has learned from it, or
Right.
the AV software has learned, has updated the signatures, and now it has that signature in it.
Yeah. So just to summarize on a high level, I one tagline I can put for the people: why should you not consider any seam just as is out of the box? You have to understand and then evaluate the scenario, and just do not focus only on the critical ones, because those low and medium will eventually become the critical ones, and by that time you will lose all the time. So now let's move on. I think you wanted to talk about something on forensics. I think is
Yeah.
one of the areas. Let's talk about it. What you have to say, and what you've been seeing it, and how would you deal with those?
Yeah, so forensics really comes into play in more of the incident response scenario. So after, something has happened, and you've determined, or you're looking at suspicious processes, and this is a little more low level stuff here, so it's a little more technical. Um, but yeah, learning the memory, right? How memory works, right?
Okay.
And the low level of the processes, right? Because if you open up Windows Task Manager,
Right.
right, you're going to see a bunch of processes,
Exactly.
and you know most people don't know what's going on in these processes, or how to like how would you identify
Right.
if something's malicious or not. So if you have the ability from your scene to say, hey, um, this executable looks suspicious, right? Like, let me go to this endpoint, I can check it out, and see what's going on. And if you can pull up, using some tools like volatility, it's a popular memory analysis tool, and gather a memory image and look at the process tree, look at the process list. Um, and again, coming back to a baseline, right? You need to understand what's normal and what's not. Right now I'm analyzing a Stuxnet memory image from an infected host from Stuxnet, and looking at the memory image, just doing some basic process list like analysis, you can see it runs multiple LSAS
Hmm.
executables, right? So if you're looking at that, and again, you learn the ins and outs of the Windows systems or your Linux systems, you'll know right away. LSAS should only be there should only be one LSAS process running, and it should be running from the services, and right away when the computer starts up. It shouldn't be So it should be booting with the rest of the startup processes under that services exe. And so, looking at that, right, and you can see multiple LSAS executables, right? Okay, well, now you already have red flags popping up left
Right.
and right, and then you go dig deeper. So on the forensics level, not only memory analysis, but more importantly, log analysis, right? And
Log
when
analysis.
learning Windows event IDs,
Oh
uh,
yes, absolutely.
so that can be crucial, and it could really be, if you know your environment and you have these, you learn the Windows event IDs, and you learn which ones should be flagging on, like
Right.
which is the normal ones, and then start flagging on the abnormal, or the ones you think are important, right? Like if this uh, host is getting RDP connections,
Right.
right? Start flagging on the Windows event. I don't know the ID number off the top of my head.
Yeah, so I just
Um,
want to add on one of my videos, those who are still watching it, I have a separate video where I put all the Windows most common security event IDs. I'm not sure, I believe there are 19 or 24 of them, specifically coming from the incident response. So again, people, I'll try to put the link, otherwise search Windows ID, and in my YouTube, you'll find that video there. Uh, so thanks for bringing it up, Aaron.
yeah, I'll share with you some resources. Sans, if you see right behind me, there's a Sans Hunt Evil poster, and there's also another one called Sans Windows Forensic Analysis poster, and those are all free. You could get them on
Yeah,
Sans
and
website.
I just want to add, these posters pretty very very valuable. That I've seen few of them for even for the information security and all those. That's very well. I said architected and presented. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, it's very well documented. They give you explanations of everything, why you know what's important about it, what's to look for. So I'll share those links with you at the end, and yeah, you could.
Sure.
They're free posters. You could download them as PDFs.
Right.
A lot of great information on there. Yeah, and so yeah, back to the Windows event IDs is just again, learn comes back to baselining, right? All of this ties back to just baselining your environment
Exactly.
and being able to find out what's normal and then flagging everything that's abnormal. And the abnormal stuff may be, you know, stuff that has to happen once in a while, but at least you have eyes on it. Um, so yeah, coming, but yeah, that's what I have to say
Yeah.
on that.
No, no, that absolutely makes sense. I can go into the weeds of like logging, SIEM, and all that. Even I did migrated a couple of SOC back like 4 years ago, and there were no visibility on the network infrastructure, Cisco router switches, and all that. And also there was some legacy authentication was used in SQL boxes 2005, and we got an alert at 2 in the morning. And guess what? 4 days later, we figured out, okay, it was legacy auth by design. So this was a great example of false positive.
Right.
So again, it's always like knowing your environment is very important. Sometimes, as you mentioned, was false positive and false fatigue can also cause, and this is where your knowledge matters, experience matter. And again, is this just something you can learn on the job, or working with some experienced people, I would say. Yeah, so that's something you will not learn in a typical training. This is what I'm trying to explain here. So you mentioned something around honeypots and canaries, and can you talk a little bit about those? And I think, and I have not seen so many people talking about it. So something you want to shed some light on that?
Yeah, yeah. So the cyber deception.
Okay.
It's so I think it's very underused, underutilized in the field, and I could see why, you know, some people may have you know, may be reserved about putting something, exposing something on their network to the internet and letting it get attacked for, you know, for intelligence purposes or but you know, I could talk a little bit about first my honeypot that I have set up. uh, I have one set up on AWS. It's completely free. It doesn't, you know, if you sign up for the account, you know, you get a year free at a certain tier. You don't need you know, you don't need high amounts of memory. You don't need crazy amounts of storage. You know, the one I run, I think, is 2 gigs of RAM and 8 gigs of storage. And the
Okay.
logs clear out every week or so. So you get about a week's worth of logs of attacks. Um, and it's run through the D Shield honeypot. It's a script that you would just run on your AWS instance, right? You run that script, and I could send you that link as well.
Is
It's
it a
run through.
Windows instance or Linux?
It's a Linux instance,
Okay.
Linux, um, Ubuntu, and it's through the creators of it are the guys from SANS Internet Storm Center. So
Okay.
yeah, you create an account there, and you would basically feed this information as well to
Oh,
the Internet
nice.
Storm Center. So you're
Nice.
contributing to the community as well,
Community, yeah.
and
Yeah, we're
it's
collecting those all what you call intel for the
mhm,
new attacks, and this is
yeah.
like community driven project. Oh, that's a nice idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And then what you can do, you know, what you do is you check them out every now, you know, every other day or so. And you'll see, like you said, you'll see a lot of automated attacks. You'll see a lot of the same uh boring stuff, right? After a week of looking at it, you'll be like, oh, I know what this is, I know what this is, I
Yeah.
know but there's so much value in learning about even those boring, constant, you know, same attacks every day.
Yeah.
You can pull so much information, and then the next time you're looking at an interesting attack, you know, something that's abnormal that you don't see a lot, you can pull so much value out of that and analyzing the next attack. And there's so much you know, open source, you know, tools and websites to use to analyze. I mean, you could any of these attacks. You know, I've done about 8 or 9 of attack observations by now. So you know, just analyzing one attack, and you go down such a deep rabbit hole on
Right.
just a basic attack. Everything from, you know, the attack and what it's trying to exploit. I mean, you'll see a lot of attacks are still exploiting, you know, vulnerabilities from 2017, 2019.
Yeah.
even 2011, like I've seen CVE's 2011 on there, and in these exploits, and you never know what's out there. I've gotten Citrix, that recent Citrix vulnerability, the Citrix bleed. So you could see people scanning for those servers and those networks, and then again using all these open source tools, you can see what the community is saying about it, right?
Right.
I mean, if you go look at the comments, and even on Virus Total,
Hmm.
or any of those websites,
Right.
you'll see people commenting, "Hey, this is scanning for this Citrix bleed vulnerability. This is scanning for this is brute forcing SSH."
Right.
Um, and there's a lot of value there, and you can determine, if you put that on, let's say, your enterprise network, sure, you'll get uh, a lot of the script kiddies, but you
Right.
may end up finding something that again is abnormal, right? And something more targeted. And then you see what they're trying to exploit, right? And
Right.
if they're trying to exploit something that maybe you use that software or
Hmm.
hardware, well, now and
Right.
now you're a step ahead of them.
Yeah. And also,
uh
I was thinking, uh, if you mentioned people are reluctant not to put it, so they can create a sandbox environment and mimic some of their databases instances, and at least is better than nothing. And another good point is that, which I want to emphasize more on that, even you get bored after looking at those scenarios and attack after a day, 2 days, a week, and week after. But if you see those in the real environment, you will catch them right there. Hey, I've
right.
seen it. Hey, I've seen it. You will, your brain will develop that if that pattern is happening in the environment. And these kind of skills that really help you grow your career, or help you and impress, or at the work. Like, this is something, because it's all about experience. So in that case, you don't need to wait for 2 years. You can, what you just suggested, within 2 weeks, people can have a really good experience and bring a lot on the table.
Yeah, and a lot of people breaking into the field, I always recommend them go create a website, go create a honeypot, and then go start analyzing attacks and learning, right? Just
Yep.
learning on the fly. You don't need that. That's the great thing about the field, is you don't need to go have professional experience to get experience. You can
Exactly.
get all this stuff at mostly free, if not a minimal cost. I
Yeah.
mean, and you don't need to be in college. Sure, certification will help, but you don't need to have a degree.
Yeah.
I don't have my bachelor's degree yet,
Yeah.
but
You have the
you
skill,
don't.
man. You have the skill certification. That's itself is a proven success story, that you don't have to go to a 4 year. Then you have all these SEN certification, or I talk also a lot about cloud security certifications. Of course, and you're doing your or if you somebody wants to do the bachelor's on the side, they can do on the parallel. But things have changed. People are looking, companies are looking for people for the skills. Hey, you should be able to deliver those. One thing I also wanted to add, you mentioned how to set it up in the cloud, but I've seen people, folks I've worked before, some of the smart people, they do this is what they do every day. They have two Verizon or two internet at lines
Mhm.
at their home, one for the regular home use, and they have a complete separate dedicated internet line just to play around
Yep.
with the VM. They set up their own network, bring machines. It's not impacting the home network, but they have designed the labs like this and they play around with that. So what I'm saying is that people, when they say, hi, how do we get the experience? Man, it's right there. You just need
Hmm.
to go play around with that. It's like Legos, break and fix, break and fix. Simple
Right.
as that. And you
Yeah.
need that analytical and critical thinking.
Yeah, and that's it's crucial to it's also, it demonstrates your knowledge, right? um and then as you get the professional experience and the real, even the at home experience, and you do tangible things, and you can demonstrate those things that you've learned, then you go get the degrees and the extra certifications, and now you're skyrocketing, right? You're
Yeah,
like, you're on an exponential curve of growth, because now
yeah,
you've got the foundations, and you just keep going from there.
right. So we have few more topics. Let's see if we can cover it.
Sure.
A couple of more topics. So now we know the importance of red teaming and blue teaming. And in other podcast, I had a word not the world. I think Finland's one of the top security trainer, and it's there in my video that he said, For every one red team job, there are six blue team jobs, and which people they know it, they analyze. We have logging related job, we have forensics job, we have SIEM engineer, we have analyst, we have security engineer job, like five on top of the head without me
Right.
thinking it. I just call it out. So those are the job roles, and this is also important. And we can go on like talk about some not the network and infrastructure. There are application related attacks you just mentioned in the beginning about somebody writing a code and all that scape on that level. So is there anything else, a couple of points you want to touch on, Aaron?
Yeah, so from, a blue team perspective, like you said, there's one red teamer for six blue teamers. I mean, we have to do much more than the red teamer, right? Because the red teamer, he just needs to get into one thing
Yes,
once,
exactly.
that's it.
Yep.
And he has all the time, okay, in a professional setting, he doesn't have all the time in the world. He has a week or two maybe.
Yeah.
But he has the time to break in and figure out things, and we
Just
have to be right.
yeah.
uh and coming back to learning, on the blue team side, you need to learn, and understand their attacks. So coming back, honeypots, um you know understanding how those attacks are being implemented. But there's also, I just want to share some free tools
Sure.
and virtual machines out there that are that you can use to play around with, and they're easy to get set up. So OWASP Juice Shop. So
Okay.
for anybody who's not familiar with OWASP, they run the OWASP Top 25, and
Oh, top
yes,
25. I was gonna say top 10. Okay.
or Top 10. Sorry,
Yeah.
I think there's a SANS Top 25. That's why
Okay.
I got that mixed up. So
That's fine.
OWASP Top 10, and those are the 10 most exploited web
Yeah.
app exploits going on for the year. I think they do. And so OWASP Juice Shop is a virtual machine, and it's a web application, and you set that up on on one virtual machine, and then you get your Kali Linux virtual machine on the other one, and you just start hacking away.
Hmm.
And they have walkthroughs. It's basically a capture the flag, right? Can you do a SQL injection? Can you do a
Okay.
cross-site scripting attack? Can you do cross-site request forgery on this, and get the flag? And they'll give you little achievements and stuff. So that's a fun and easy one to do. There's another one that's a little more advanced, using Metasploitable. So
Metasploit.
yeah, so Metasploitable is a lot of fun as well. Same thing. You set that up on a virtual machine, and you get your Kali box on the other one, and you start hacking away. And though that machine, I like that machine specifically because you can increase the security level. So there's low,
Okay.
medium, and high. So you start out
Okay.
at the low, you start learning the basics, and you increase it to medium, and then you try your low exploit is not going to work on the medium one. So now you got to
Right.
up it. And that's really how you learn. That's how you learn how complex these attacks are,
Right.
and how complex they can get, and how they're being conducted, and how people are fuzzing, which is using different, just kind of in a brute forcing way of
Right.
learning how to attack a system to get something to work.
Right.
Um, so those are super valuable tools for blue teamers and red teamers alike. So blue teamer, you got a tougher job, and
Yep. You have to think
it's
like a hacker.
yeah, you have to think like a hacker and like a defender.
Yep.
So you got a tough job, and blue teamers don't get enough credit. I'm a
Yeah.
blue teamer through and through, and we don't get enough credit for, everybody wants to be a pen tester.
Yeah.
Those
No,
guys are the
that's people like the cybersecurity people think it's just the person behind the keyboard with the hoodie and all that. That's just the one job. And blue teamer, they're also purple teaming, which is goes to the engineering architecture, which we'll cover sometime later. I've done a lot in the purple teaming as well. And what we have just talked about is, again, there are many jobs, and again, the particular thing, when you have this kind of activities happening, this is where a companies should need to consider logging. We talk about specifically security identities. It can be for across the windows from the endpoint. So you should be making sure you're collecting the logs from your infrastructure, and then build your custom alerting, know what is normal in your environment, what's not normal, and then you rely and put all the data feed into the SIEM, which it will do the machine learning. Machine teaching is there, but AI capabilities vary from vendor to vendor. So again, alert fatigue should be reduced by 90% as a best practices, which I have seen a number of products. You don't want to have 10,000 alerts. You want to make sure it's reduced to manageable alerts, and knowing your environment. You may have a legitimate alerts, as I mentioned, like legacy auth on along those lines. Maybe a new product out of the box may raise an alert. Hey, legacy auth is old technology and start. But guess what? If your business need that old databases or old infrastructure, because it's bringing millions of dollars to your companies, right? So you got to make sure then you have a different defense layer and alerting. So those are things which will help you as you go on the job. So I do have more than 3 hours of lecture on Azure SIEM on my YouTube channel, which talks about SIEM Sentinel has, like, I think more than 150 or 200 out of the box built in anomaly detection there. Go leverage that. There are also some what you call logics there. This is one of the platform which I was exploring, but that's not the only product. There are many products available. I'm not biased. There are products like Sumo Logic and Splunk, I don't know, Logarithm, IBM QRadar. So I'm not biased. Go explore yourself, learn, understand what feature and capabilities they have, and you just need to learn one product. I think you mentioned some open source, I believe, and then
Yeah,
before we wrap up the call.
yeah. So Elasticsearch, Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. They're log aggregators, and
Okay.
they will analyze the data. You have to learn them. You have to tweak them and learn them and set them up. And it's a painful process, especially in the
Okay.
beginning when you're learning it. But again, learning it, going through the trouble and the heartache of suffering through the setting it up and getting it to work. So I have an elk stack that feeds into my honeypot, that
Okay.
my honeypot feeds into. And so it aggregates all the data in there, and it visualizes it all nice for you. And again, it's another way to learn your tools and learn how to make things, work for you and what you want to see, and the data you want to, that's important to you.
Right.
So again, it's a little bit of a painful process in the
Yeah.
beginning, but once you
There's
do it
no
once,
no pain, no gain.
yeah, exactly. Once you do it once, though, you're flying, because you can
Yeah.
now go to another, whether it's your organization or setting up something else,
Right.
your some other kind of network. You just, you just keep going with it, and now you know how to do it once. You can do it twice, three times, you know.
Yep. Perfect, perfect. No, I thank you. I mean, I think I was send me those resources I can put in the description of the video. I'm really happy that you shared specific tools so people can go and try them themselves. That's really one of those that can help to gain experience with
Hmm.
hands-on, be able to help them with their interview call. And going forward, let me know in the comments, because this is another area. This is what we talk about, red teaming and all that. When it comes to overall security leadership, this is where a GRC component or assurance component. So it's not compliance, but making sure organization has all those tools and capability. It is another important from the leadership perspective, from CISO leadership, and also the CTO or CIO, because at the end of the day, it's enterprise risk management. And this is how, not directly, indirectly, very well connected, that how would you address those risks. So if you connect the dots, and in the future I will bring more content around that, how these operational things contribute to lower the risk for your enterprise by having the right technology, right tool set, with the right people, which is the most important, knowledgeable
Right.
people to work with that. So that's being said, again, Aaron, I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll have some more content like this in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you. Let me know any comments, folks, and I'll try to cover in my future podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Security, as you are going to explain your grandparents or your kids. If you can sometimes have to go that far, because you don't know every time it can be a different audience. But again, if you're working in a control, like in a bank, you know your audience. But if you are in a service delivery, it's totally different. And you gave a very good example. No matter how many vulnerabilities do you find, if you're not able to define the risk and the impact of those risk on the business, because it now connects with the cost center. Because why would a business invest you in terms of salary, or if you were to go over a budget, question how is going to impact my business end of the day, so this is on the high level decisions are made, and this is all the way come from top to bottom approach, and that's very important. It's not about hard skills all the time, but folks, yeah, hard skills are good, required, mandatory, but if we really want to grow, that's where the soft skills and communication skills and your presentation skill matters the most.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. It's go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna ask. Yeah, go ahead. Floor is open. If you have any questions, yeah, shoot them
Yeah,
out.
just yeah, I did have some questions. And I just wanted to little at first I just wanted to know a little bit more about how you got your start and how you've seen the industry change over the years. And how it differs from when you started to now,
Hmm.
and what were the challenges you had to overcome, or did you notice the shift going on when you were in, like, when you were in the
Right.
beginning? Did you notice the shift coming as the years went
Yes.
on?
So I started long ago at the time of dot-com boom when security was just a firewall, Cisco ASA, and that time security was kind of non-existence, and IT was a cost center. But I was very clear what I wanted to do. In the grade 9 or 10th, I read the book from Bill Gates, two books, Road Ahead and Speed, Business at the Speed of Light. And he talked about plastic money, he talked about customer services. So he kind of gave the vision, what the life we live today, 30 years later, pretty much. And I got exposed to those books back in, I don't know, late 1999, something along those lines when I was doing my bachelor's. And I did not do my bachelor's from US. I did it from Pakistan. And in our country, there are only two options: doctor or engineer. Okay. So I opted to go with the engineering, and all my uncle, aunt from my mother's side, and all this, they're all doctors or cardiologists or nephrologists. Um, so there was tough, they were like, why don't you go to medical? You'll make more
Yeah.
money if you go to US. And they were all here. So I was like, no, I like that kind of person where, my interest was developed in computers, and I exposed early enough, and I want to like to use a break and fix and see the results immediately, this kind of thing. And but that time I also like, I always loved studying the stuff. So back in 2000 -ish early, there used to be a Shavlik newsletter or something, or research company. I published my article back in days about vulnerabilities, back in 2001 or something. And also I worked right after my graduation. I worked for a software development house, which kind of did not pay me a good salary, but I learned a lot. Talk about Cisco Linux IP tables, literally going, all that hardcore skills. And when you're working with a software development team, you have to make sure your application is secure. Application security, what we talk about, I would got exposed back in days. Database security, I used to do it. And how do we do that? There was very minimum thing, but you could block all these things on the firewall. And you're supposed to just allow the ports which are required by the databases. So in 2001, SQL Slammer hit the whole internet, and 80% of the databases were down. And the database we were running in our data center, that data center was also impacted. But guess what? Fortunately, our database server was up and running because we did not open those UDP port. I think it works on UDP 1.5 or I don't remember, but and it has a TCP port for databases also. So that was only the port open, and we block all the port. So data center was impacted, but our application fine, and we survived. So the point is that going back to the basics, knowing first you have to have your interest. Once you find the interest, then depending how deep, again, I always wanted to go deep into the product. That's what me, but I have many friends. They ended up into pre-sales or other area, which is all good. Everybody's interest, but that's my personal story, and I was keen to do more research. I used to write the stuff, and I worked in different countries, 3 different countries. Now I'm in US, and I used to speak a lot of event. I spoke, IEEE events, British Computer Society. So I always like to speak to events, and those when you go in and speak in the front of an audience, you have to do a lot of homework because what if somebody asks? That's the whole area where I can go on how to develop your skills. But when you're starting first, you're always scared because you don't know. So that also made me learn and stretch my knowledge to go beyond. Now, going back to the second question, how things have changed, right, from then and now. Of course, if you ask me today, I specifically use word cloud security. I don't use cybersecurity, and there's a big difference. But again, on the market, it's still there. It's kind of same, but at the same time, they're not same.
No.
As long as you have a hybrid component, that's it. Your perimeter has changed. Your line of defense has changed. If you are still in 100% data center, your perimeter and line of defense is firewalls and all those stuff. As soon as you're in 100% cloud, firewall do not exist. You do not manage those. Cloud provider does it. If you're in a hybrid, you still manage the firewall, but your front end entry is all identity. And that's the whole thing changes, and it can vary. But again, this is where cloud security, and with the adoption of cloud, if you go back in 2016, companies have adopting cloud more and more. But I started my cloud journey back in 2011ish. So you can say I'm always ahead of the curve when it comes to these kind of technologies. I kind of sense it, or maybe learn from the market. Hey, what's coming, right? Then it's become very common after 3 4 years. That's kind of thing. And that's how the market is changing now. We are talking about more cloud security, and cloud security being the new security. Let's say people call it cloud security posture management, data security posture management, application security. As I said, it's very advanced when it comes to Kubernetes and clusters and all those stuff. So this is how the market is changing. And then new technology bring new challenges, and this is where more folks are required to be focused there. And these in couple of years will become niche itself. Like identity and architect role did not exist 4 or 5 years ago. Now if you go and
Right.
find, people need architect for identity
Yeah.
space, just an example.
Right. Yeah. And so I have two questions, but I'll start with the first one. So you said, you kind of stayed ahead of the curve. And so that brings me to my next question is, in the next, 5 to 10 years, we have AI, all these new technologies coming out. What is what is the thing you're looking to or the thing to focus on? Or if you're new to the field, right? If you're just getting into the field, what would be the thing to start learning right now so that in the next 5 to 10 years, when it's very popular, you're ahead of the curve?
Yeah, so we want to keep it, let's say 5 years. 10 years is way too long, right? Because things have
Mhm.
changed. And so
Right.
let's say what's gonna happen, how things look like in the next 5 years, right? So definitely AI is everywhere. The way we see AI is gonna be get more and more adopted. But guess what? You are in cybersecurity already. You talked about you manage the seams, right? You look into
Mhm.
those. So cybersecurity is one of those very few area in technology, overall technology, where AI has been used. Look at even Google, or if Microsoft, um, Google acquired a company. I don't remember the name. Start with C. I'm forgetting. So they have cybersecurity. So if you go back to the alert
Oh,
and
Mandiant.
monitoring, no, no,
Oh,
no. There's another
no.
Chronicle. Chronicle. I think their product name
Oh,
is
okay, okay.
Chronicle, which is sort of a seam. So if you look at threat and monitoring, right? Millions and millions attacks happens, but a human is not possible to do it. So if you go back in the days, they were not that advanced. Now all these threats are automatically handled. So AI and machine learning is already been there. But how do we bring it to the masses and the more audience to make it more practical outside the space of technology, right? In medical fields and accounting field, AI has to go across different areas to
Right.
become our lifestyle. So the more it will go, the more will be the jobs and the more will be the problems. So there will be always problem. Privacy is the biggest concern today, if you ask me. And we will be seeing some people who are depending on the job role. But again, how would you make sure a system can design and then it can detect issues related to privacy? Of course, privacy is all about personal identification. And we see so many apps today, they take your facial recognition. People use Snapchat, people use TikTok. But these platforms are collecting your whole facial recognition. They can run it. They know. I mean,
Right.
that's a privacy concern. And I'm not
Right.
talking about TikTok. Even if it's an Instagram, people post their videos with the face. So if you go back 15, 20 years, the way I think it would have been very impossible if I launch a product and ask people, we will collect your data, we will collect your face, and we'll use for facial recognition. Now with these social media tools, they already gotten delivered.
Yeah.
Everybody's face is there. They can run it. If you look at from that perspective, it's data is there, like billions and millions of people using it. So in 5 years, these are the one of those things will pose so many challenges. And this is where they will work together, in my opinion, the AI piece and the cybersecurity, because you'll see more different type of threat, like deepfake. Take an example, audio, now
Right.
video. Sora, if you do
Right.
like a Sora. So this is crazy. Next 5 years, next 3 years, a lot of stuff is going towards that way.
Right. Yeah. And just to put a little tangent on there, I just was messing with a open source text to speech tool called Tortoise TTS. It's on GitHub. It's an open source product where AI product where you can uh, generate your own AI voice, and some of the template they had was like Robert De Niro and Morgan
Yep.
Freeman, and you just type up a text file and then you have it generate. It takes like 15 minutes to generate a sentence, but it sounds like Morgan Freeman or Robert De Niro talking to you, and
Yep.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. And like it's all free and open source. So
Yeah, and that's
um,
gonna go towards the deepfake, where
right,
I did a small educational video on my YouTube, where, and this scam is happening. People will call you,
yeah,
pretend who they are, right?
right.
Then the verification system has to be improved. So yeah, I mean, a lot of opportunities and a lot of misuse going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, and so that'll bring me back to my next question, which I think a lot of people who are in the field already, or just beginning in the field, may relate to this question. So, you
Yeah,
know, do I'm still trying to find my way, and I still consider myself like a uh, cyber generalist, right? Like I'm not specifically, I haven't mastered any one set of skill, but I know a lot about everything. I know a little bit about everything. I know a lot of the fundamentals of everything. Um, Going as I progress and get further, I find myself wanting to kind of specialize more and more. But then I also hear things where it's like, and I see job postings where it's like they want somebody who has five different set of skills. It's not just, unless you're looking for like specifically a forensic analyst or a threat hunter. I see a lot of
yeah,
job postings that are just very broad, generalized. So do you think it's
yeah.
important to stay as a generalist, or, focus your skills on one thing?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I can bet you can only find from a podcast like this from experienced people. You would not find on any book. Maybe somebody put in the YouTube. I don't know, because this is a very legitimate question. This is very good, and it has. Let me help you with a couple of answers, because then it will help you decide which way you want to move it to. Because this is specifically in the industry. So this is true, that you need to have a knowledge of a lot of domains within the cybersecurity. When I say domain, those people who are watching, then they do not have security idea. So if you can go and look at CSSP or Cloud Security Alliance, there are domains in CSSP curriculum. They have 8 to 10 domains. In CSA, they have 15 domains. And when I talk about 15 security domains, let me give an example: identity and access management, threat and vulnerability management, application security, vendor risk, governance, risk compliance, and the list goes on. So these will become, and we already see today, identity and access management domain, we need an identity architect who's just responsible for that. Vulnerability management is existing from the last 20 years. Every cyber folk you go and talk to, everybody doing the patch and vulnerability. That's very known skills, and threat vulnerability and all that. But there are new domains, as I mentioned, right? They are evolving. So of course, person like me, even I cannot be a master, but I know good enough that I can talk to you for the 15 domains for the next 15 hours easily. That's based on the experience I have, right? And my experience has been I work with developers. I've been a lead architect. I've designed so many cloud solutions. So my experience is very diversified. So that's depends. So how did you spend your 20 years, basically, right? You'll find some people spend last 20 years is just focusing in one area. They might be Unix administrator for the last 20 years, for example, right? So that's another thing. And they are satisfied making good end of the day, work good life balance, making good money. So everybody has a unique journey. Um, so how would you want to do yourself? How would you plan? That's the question. Hey, how am I gonna do it? What am I supposed to be doing? There's so much to do, so much to learn. So one of those things one can look for is look at from the different roles available, because this is what is important. What role you want to see yourself in the next in the short term, 2 years and 3 years and 5 years. If you wanted to work for a particular role for a vendor, for Palo Alto or CrowdStrike or Cisco, um, and then basically you will be either working in the pre-sales or sales or product development. Product development is a hardcore where you work with the product development and you can go search, but basically you will be part of that team where it will be more technical. Pre-sales is basically customer facing. You're still technical person, but you have to work with sales guys and market your product. You will be going to the road shows and seminars. You will be part of that. And then you will be basically having an audience where you will just walk them through a product demo. Hey, this product can do this, it has this feature and that. So basically you're helping the sales team to enable and grow their sales with your technical knowledge. But there is a certain area limitation, because then you can, or they will take, or marketing will take the feedback to the product development team. So pre-sales kind of role has a different names, but uh, to the core and crux is that's what the pre-sales role is. So these are three areas. And even in those companies, whether if you are hired as a CISO or you want to work as CTO or along those lines, end of the day, they want to make and improve their product, because that's what they do, whether it's a Microsoft or Cisco or Google, you name it. Now, these similar role on the other side in the consumer business, or whichever the corporate business, which is your banking, which can be a health industry, which can be a big four, is different. In those companies, they have some business division. Like I was at KPMG, so we did have advisories. I was not part of that. I was part of engineering. But in advisory, there are advisors. They go and talk to the customer, assess the environment, and that's how they work on it. But in these companies, if let's say if a bank would not have this role, depending what bank it is or along those lines. So if you work in a bank along those lines, this is where that role, they will not hire for such role. They will hire somebody who can deliver the job, who understand the technology. And this is where you need a broad knowledge, because now
Right.
you need to understand the operating system, you need to understand storage, you need to understand the compute. And that's why you need to have a broad experience, but you have to have some niche. Let's say you could be a firewall, a Palo Alto engineer, but at the same time, databases on a high level. You don't need to know row level encryption, for example, in a database, how
Right.
to implement, but you need to know how these things work. So this is where these things changes, and this is where things change all the way to the top leadership, because a CISO in a bank has different deliverables versus a CISO for Cisco would have a different deliverables, if that answers your question.
Yeah, no,
And
it
that's
does.
and this is how one can help, because there's a confusion. People say, okay, I'm going to go and do this. That's fine, somebody who is starting, but as you go on and you learn more and you grow, uh, that's and this is where also sometimes helps, we have to do the homework for your next role, basically.
Right. Yeah, and you know that, and I think it comes back to um, right, bringing value to your company or whoever you work for. You want to bring that. You want to make sure you can bring value. So, in my head, I'm looking at it as like the more I know, the more value the more spread out my knowledge is, the more I can bring value to my company. So, and then I always feel like after work I can continue focusing on a specific niche skill on my own. And that's I think that's the going back to part of what keeps me in the field and inspired is like I can come home and do any kind of cybersecurity role that is out there. I could do it at home on my computer for free or pretty much for free. And so like I'm really into security research and analyzing attacks. And so I have honeypots set up all over the place and I'm always
Nice.
looking at that stuff. And so again, I just bringing value to the company. And yeah, that was my question is just how could I, you know, wanted to see your perspective on that. Um, would you say there was any um, significant milestones or like turning points in your career where it was where you kind of knew like you could
Hmm.
take that step from a entry level mid role to like management role, like I could start helping build infrastructure or lead this kind of team. Was there any turning point or something that you did that helped you realize that potential, or was it just time in the industry?
No, I would say there were three turning points in my life. Three of them I can remember as far as. So 2007-ish, I was in Dubai. I used to work there. And I used to run a lot of road shows with Microsoft. I used to invite a speaker to my events. I used to organize those. And at that time, consultant, I was part of the Microsoft community, so I used to get to meet all of them. So some consultant for Microsoft messaging product, they used to come for Emirates Airline email migration from Switzerland, and one was from California. So I met in one of those events, and they used to do this speaking sessions in Europe, and I was in Dubai. And when we got connected somehow, and then when they come, I invited them, and I hosted a number of sessions with them because they were there for like more than 6 months, so 3 4 sessions, and we did PowerShell sessions there that time. That was new and interesting. So one of the consultant kind of helped me, and he was enterprise level because he was doing these large migration for 50,000, 60,000 that time. And he kind of gave me an advice that why you putting, he saw my effort and energy, and he said, you should be scaling up and you should be moving your skills for that market, the one he was doing. I was focusing on the small businesses. And he said, that's not worth your time and effort. You got all this energy and you have this potential, you better be focusing on that. So I took it very seriously and asked him what he would recommend and how, along those lines. I'm still in contact with him somehow, but so that was a turning point for me, which really changed my whole career, and I would say helped me where I am today, because then I kept move on and move on, and I did very large scale projects. Sometime I had fear, but once I've done it, I don't have fear of deleting one of the very big, like migrating somebody and being a lead architect and designing a system of 100,000 environments.
Wow.
So where you get two project managers, you get 18 or 20 architects working in your team. You don't like it's not like you're managing a people. It's like they are delivering what leadership is expecting. So in fact, my role was also more on a design and architecture. So that was another career changing thing when I was for a big four, and I was leading that project, and that helped me work with all the legal compliance and all those people, which I kind of worked for ITAR related project previously, but the exposure I got in that project was immense experience. Then I kind of learned, you could not just move a mailbox basically in the cloud without the permission from legal and all that. And it still happens today in those controlled environment. I'm sure in the banking also. You cannot just move the data. You
Right.
get fired basically. It's not that easy.
Right.
Um, and third one, um, what was the third one? Most recently one, I think I forgot. Big four one. The before. Um, um, yeah, I forgot the was the third one. There is one.
No,
If I remember, I'll just go. Yeah.
sure. Yeah, no, that's great. See what else I got here. And so what are some of the biggest challenges you're facing in today's environments? Again, things are rapidly changing and moving
Yeah.
very fast. So what are some of like the challenges you're facing today and how are you addressing them?
If I were to pick, I would pick, I think, two areas, and today basically,
Mhm.
one of them is data security, because you're in the cloud, you gotta make sure. So you have to do a um, data assessment or what data you gonna put in the cloud. Basically, even you, if it's a database level, it's a file level, and then what are the controls around there? Is the data classification has been defined? Is it regular data? Is it sensitive data? Okay, if it's sensitive, then how are we gonna find out? So in banking, you can have credit card is a very common example, social security
Mhm.
number, but it goes beyond that. In health industries,
Right.
health related data,
Right.
and where it's going to be stored. If it is going to be stored, for example, it can be stored in a Google Drive or OneDrive, right? People use those drives, or
Right.
is going to be stored in a database, the location of the database. If you spin up infrastructure and you set up your own databases or virtual machines, then your underlying blob storage or S3 buckets in AWS, are they secured? So data security is still, because end of the day, the motivation for the hacker is about steal the data.
Right.
And this is how they
Mhm.
make it, whether it's a ransom attack or whatever, ransomware or whichever, right? So their motivation is steal the data. If you look at the breaches we had in 2023, so many health related and T-Mobile and you name it, like there were like
Yep.
MGM, the biggest one also.
Yep.
So motivation is same across the board pretty much. So no matter what I do, if I'm not able to have good guardrails around securing the data, and before you secure the data, you have to do some assessment, right? So that's why some data type or some data which is supposed to be public. So you don't may not want to implement those controls and rule, and you have to have a different logical isolation there versus where you have. So that's one of those things. So I don't want to go deeper into that.
Yep.
Second, if I were to pick application security, uh, so every interface to this data basically is through an application. Application is in a mobile app. We use websites for learning and tutorial. I like using my MacBook or my desktop where I have to focus, learn. But for my everyday banking, I'm using an app. Uh, for anything similar, maybe the mortgage, maybe something
Right.
else, I'm having that app. So whether it's a mobile app or whichever the app is, so application security, and that app is your hand is making connection to application servers and all the ways collecting and fetching the data from databases. So I'm a user. I have the app, my device, but there is a component which is a middle tier, and then you have a database. So that particular middle tier is an interface, which is could be a web server or running on Kubernetes, and it's all public facing, because that's the
Yep.
way cloud is supporting the business. Otherwise, nobody's gonna. So business gotta
Right.
become time to market. They have to be productive. They have to launch the product quick and fast. Take an example for Tesla. Somebody hacks your account for Tesla, right? They control it.
Mm.
So what are the controls and how do we make sure security is there? So application security and all those practices I'm sure you're familiar about OWASP and
Yep.
SAST and
Hmm.
DAST and pen test you're talking about. So these things will
Hmm.
grow and I can also see a lot of automation there, but it's still they will have a lot of automation. I was seeing some pen test automation tools are there and everything,
Right.
but still there is required skill set people are required, because one vulnerability in one environment may not be applicable to the when you look at the CV
Right.
score and all that. So this is
Right.
where the knowledge is required. So those two areas I can think of, that this is where the challenge is. And the
Okay.
third challenge is AI and privacy, which we have not seen it
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's coming. Yeah. And then so now I'll turn it to a different question. So yeah, back to soft skills. Um, I do a little bit of mentoring for veterans transitioning out of the military, going into specifically like cyber or IT. Um, I try to help them, with their transition. Um, I always harp on the importance of networking and building, talking to people in the field and being a part of a group, just like the ISC squared chapter we're in, and just meeting people and asking people questions, and you know how I how can you know talk about how important it is to do that, and in this field to meet people and ask questions, and not just I think a lot of people struggle because they're expecting to do they're expecting to get a mentor, quote unquote, but then they're expecting a mentor to kind of give them a blueprint of how to get into the field. And I tell them all the time, there's no blueprint. You have to make, you have to make your own path. And everybody's experience is different. Everybody's skills are, their strong suits are different. So you kind of have to make your own path, and you have to learn how to ask the right questions for yourself. So, could you just talk a little bit about that?
No, that's very important. And there is a huge value, and there is no alternate way when you meet in person. That's for sure. Regardless, people work remote and all that. If you really have to build good relation, you gotta attend ISC local events or whichever networking, social networking event, technology related events there. The more you attend, the more connection you make, and it's like an icebreaker. Some people don't have they feel okay, I might go and say hi, so that's you have to, you may not be able to once two or after two three events or four events, it will automatically develop that skill, that you will get more
Mhm.
confidence to go and ask and introduce yourself. So I get that people when they start they have this pressure. So that's one of those things. In If you attend all these events, yeah, I mean, you go and meet, and all the time is not necessary you'll find the right contact, not necessary that they will respond to you or connect on LinkedIn. They're all different, but don't be like one of those people to become hopeless, because if you send connection invite to five people, they accept, fine, otherwise go next time, go to 10 people, to 15, but you lose nothing end of the day. And that's how the life is, because you have to be focused. And especially even in the IC2 events, I've met people. um I've seen there are people they know from before, kind of group, and they talk, this is normal human nature, and if you're new, go introduce yourself and ask. And may then don't be afraid to ask a question, because if you ask first time may not be the right question, right? But after two three times you will learn how to ask the right questions. And I have attended so many events last year, both ISC2 and ISACA, and I have not seen, like, I still think people are sort of shy, or not feeling that they, so that's, I think, they have to, like, get out of this and just ask. And maybe, I don't know, the chapter has to do a better job, because I've been into this situation. I'm not a known native English as you are, right? You were born here, so basically, for me, but it doesn't hurt. You go and ask any questions. And if you don't have a technical question, how ask them how did they start it, what make them motivated, what do they do in their job. So these things can help, because it's a huge field, everybody has a unique experience. And you're right, there's no blueprint, but there is a blueprint as well, which I will just tell, if your people are there, also baseline. And I have ton of videos even on my YouTube, which I talked about. Somebody wanted to start with fundamental, if you have zero knowledge, If you just know how to use the phone and all that, if you have never done IT, there are CompTIA IT fundamentals. There are so many
Mhm.
fundamentals available. Go learn about it, basic thing. But somebody who's doing help desk, for example, so they know computer storage and all the basic thing. So what are the steps for that? CompTIA again has a good job done, because you may not have to do all the certification. They're expensive, but the syllabus is good when you look at A plus. So you literally will learn pretty much everything. You go learn about the Cloud Plus. I think they have a shared responsibility model of basic components. You go and learn about Network Plus, or you learn CCNA, one of those things, and then you have Security Plus, is tough one, but you may not necessarily have to the certification, but go and learn what is being there. And you may not want to start with the theory first. Go with the question at the end, and understand what question being asked, and what is the answer, and why that answer is right, and why other three questions are wrong. So this will get you up to the speed and learning. Okay, what is the takeaway? This is, you can plan your study. So that's kind of a blueprint is there to understand, and you can spend 3 to 6 months to kind of understand all this stuff. And then next piece of advice is around the cloud. I will always say, learn the cloud. Don't jump directly into the cloud security, because cloud security no more use if you do not know the cloud, if you do not know the share responsibility model, if you do not know SaaS, IaaS, PaaS. So that's the concepts are very important, because when you're in security, then you're going to protect. Then you have this NIST framework, identify, detect, and protect. But what
Mhm.
are you going to do that if you are not able to identify? So that's why in the cloud environment, you have to identify, hey, this work on SaaS. In the SaaS environment, you're not even going to manage any VM at all. So these are the concepts. When says you maximum options, you have identity, you have data classification, threat hunting and monitoring. You do this is all SaaS based. There you have the tools. So you're not setting an infrastructure for SIEM and Sumo logic. You're just giving the tool front end, and you're doing a threat analysis, threat hunting, and the interface. You're looking at IP addresses, source, destination, IOC, C2C, you name it, whatever. So so there is a stack of fundamental knowledge. This is a blueprint is available, and on top of that you have multiple variable directions, which you can learn and go as you go, as you plan.
So I want to talk about the blueprint, right? Right now the field I is oversaturated with just people trying to not I don't want to use the word oversaturated, just a lot of people trying to come into the field, transition from different fields, come in, because right now cybersecurity is the hot topic,
The
right?
hardest one. Yep,
The
yep.
right, and everybody wants the the six-figure job, fully remote, and cyber's the way to get it apparently. um so on, and you spoke on the certifications, right? I have a lot of people who I've spoken to who, they have Sec Plus, they have A Plus, Net Plus, and they still can't get a job. And I my things are that I tell them is, you have to separate yourself, because now I feel like there's too many people with Sec Plus and
Yes.
all the certs that you could think of, the AWS, the
Oh
whatever they
yes.
are. So everybody has them. So you now you have to differentiate yourself from the rest of the applicants. And so I feel like there's a blueprint, but there's also a piece of the blueprint where once you get that fundamental, like now you have to go off and do more. You
Yes.
can't just rely on the fundamentals
Right.
um, to get you there, because I don't think it works anymore. Nobody
Yeah.
care. I see people all the time, and they have the IT degree, the bachelor's degree, they have Sec Plus and AWS, and they can't get a job. And I say you have to do more. You have to put a website. You have to document your knowledge. Um, so do you
Yeah.
see the value in doing those things
No,
nowadays?
yeah, that's I was coming there. That's I'm glad you asked. So we talked about some of the baseline stack,
Mhm.
certification or not. There are CompTIA's four certification, let's say A plus, Security plus, Network plus. At least have get done with one, not
Right.
all three. But even if there are people of three and they're not able to deliver,
Mhm.
let's talk about it, because we have put a job. You will have 100 people applying with AWS architect position or Azure, whichever the case. So I tell these people, go and ask yourself, put yourself in the situation of the hiring manager, and come up with a scenario with the job details requirement. and how are you going to prove that you're able to deliver on the job? So think of this way. If I have an issue, the IT job is different. Like, it's more of a deliverable when you are in the first 5 years, because depending, but that's I think is my kind of thing. So 3 5 years, you're still uh, you have to prove somewhere around. Then after 5 years, things changes. So even if you have a master's degree, even on my social account for TikTok, I have like a very good following, 12, pretty much 12,000 people there, and they have a bachelor's and master's degree, and they ask the same question that you write on spot. With the experience, with the certification, not getting job is of the experience. And we'll see if we can cover today or not the experience versus job and all that. Let's say, so it's about how do you prove those skills that you are going to deliver in that next role. How would you impress? So you have certification, you have gone through that window, now you are in a screening, you're having a face-to-face audio or video call. So you have gone through the first line of interview, you shortlisted. And in that interview, there are two ways to answer this question. And I will tell you what's the difference between an experienced person or not. If you ask somebody, how about this situation? Um, so someone would having the certification, no experience. Yeah, I will go and try. I will go for this. I will try this. Yeah, there's something like that. You kind of feel that they are not hands on.
Mhm.
The one with the experience, with the hands on, even they did not have a job, but they have done enough labs. Oh, I will go in AWS or I will go in Azure for this feature. I will go and create the some users, and I will set the policy, a minimum password strength policy 12 or 16 character, and I will also try to force MFA. Me, that guy or girl has gone through that exercise. So if I'm hiring someone, I know you're in the field for 1 or 2 years. I'm not expecting you to design the whole system, but things you have certified, at least speak to it. How would you do it? Have you done enough labs? If I ask you what things you would look into if there is some security related alert, you would know, Adnan, I will go and look for Windows log. I will go into SIEM and look at the logs. Where the logs are coming from, I'll ask you. Yeah, these are the system logs. They are coming from Windows system. They are Windows 7 or Windows 11 logs. They are a MacBook log. Because my next question would be, okay, what's the source of these logs? If you do not know the source of log and you certified, then you know, then you just memorize the data. This is good. I'm not saying, but once you're certified, ask yourself to justify. So that's why you have to work on a small, take a piece of that. Your home lab, as you mentioned, is a network lab itself. I'm not telling people go and unplug the network, then out of disconnected, but you can have some VM box, learn subnetting. What if you change the gateway? Everything will be shut down. What's the impact of having a gateway? What's the impact of having two same IP address on your network conflict? So basic thing. What's the importance of DNS? You cannot have an internet working today without DNS. That's the importance.
Mhm.
So somebody in AWS architect, engineer, whatever it is, if I tell them, hey, go troubleshoot these things, and if you do not have these basic concepts around those lines, so that's why I see people struggle getting those of even I have seen some people senior level, they're applying for some architect level position, and I ask them some of the basic stuff about the architecture. That's another area. So yeah, that's very important to do the homework, understand in the lines of the job description. Go use Bard or Microsoft ChatGPT and put that line, hey, what is expected? So learning tools are available there. So again, if people take that approach, they cannot go wrong, and they will increase the chances of hiring for sure. This is what I would do, or I do when I come across something new. There's so much information available, and
Yep.
that's my thought process.
Yeah. And you're right on. I always tell them, I said, like, once you get the certification, that's the beginning. Now you have to
Yeah,
start applying the skills that you learn there to show that you can do the job, right? That I think they see the certification as the end game when it's really the
no,
beginning of the game.
correct.
Uh, yeah.
And that is absolutely correct.
Yeah. You know, I don't know if we have an hour. That was the hour or
Yeah, if you have
how
one
long.
more question, yeah, no, I have no issue. I can go 2 hours, right? I think is the audience, that's what important it is. If they think this content is good, and we can ask if they
Yeah.
want to have in the future longer. I have no
Yeah.
issues. Yeah,
Well,
go ahead if you have further question.
I have one last question. This is my last question here. Um, Book recommendations, right? Like, do you have any uh books, whether it's technical or just books about life, like help in general about life or whatever that have helped you? That anything you recommend?
Right. So two books I already mentioned, but in my rack, I'm not a big book guy, but when I
Okay.
have time, one of the book I like the most is Rich Dad Poor Dad
Okay.
from
Yeah,
Robert
Robert.
Kiyosaki. Yeah, I
Yep.
love that guy. Regardless, I watch his podcast all the time because, and I'll give you why the books I read, the reason behind it. Um,
Or
I have
podcast recommendations.
yeah,
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 either or.
yeah, Robert Kiyosaki. And I'll tell you the reason. And second one is Tony Robinson. I love this guy
Okay.
regardless. Um, and what else do I have here? So these guys, and on the internet, on the podcast, usually I also try to learn more and more of stuff which can give me financial sense. End of the day, what we are doing to improve our work-life balance, to become more, get to the point because we can have a more financial freedom. End of the day, so that's one of those things I come across because I told you about Rich Dad Poor Dad. He talks about all that stuff, things people are supposed to learn in their high school. So that's I've seen myself, and many engineers I have worked with, even the folks I work with today. I see that the people do like that. Tony Robinson is a very good motivator. This guy's energy, man. I mean, that's just give me goosebumps. I mean, he's so
Yeah.
energetic. Whenever I see him, watch him, his message gets like, yeah. So that's
Yeah.
the. I wish I can develop that sort of energy, that sort of thing.
Me too.
So
Me too.
yeah. So and again on the books also, even career related books important. I took if somebody's companies can sponsor some of those good management courses or along those lines, Sans do have that. Some leadership course I took last year, that how do you present to the leadership around the management security, that was good. So even in the area of technology, we were talking about certification all the time, but there are like learn some of those programs, they also help because idea is that it gives you a different perspective of thinking, so that's why you want to push yourself outside your domain. That's also helpful. Sometimes I just go and read something sales related. I don't know, because your brain has to think, your brain is a
Right.
beautiful, no matter where you put in, so that's why.
Yeah.
And yeah, just one thing I forgot I wanted to add also. If you can, somebody depends everybody money and budget to travel. I like to travel. So far I've been to 14, 15 countries.
Wow.
Wherever I go, I challenge myself. My only motivation, I land in a country, I don't know the people, I don't know culture, I don't know the language, I don't know the food. So that's first 24 hours kind of thing for me. And then is every country is different vibe. But that's something not is in US, because in US pretty much everything is same wherever you go, right?
Hmm.
So that's kind of pretty much all northeast. West Coast I started exploring. I was in Grand Canyon in on November
Yeah.
something. I loved it, man. That was like
Yeah.
unbelievable experience.
Yeah. Beautiful place.
So these things are important, right? So the idea is that books, podcasts, some things you are not doing 9 to 5, do different. So have a
Right.
different, yeah. And when you go back to social networking meeting, when you meet people, I'm in a different industry or different. So that also helps you learn, hey, what you're doing, how do you do these things in your banking industry versus manufacturing versus the health and retail. So that also helps
Right.
because you learn from people.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the other thing I always say. I always say, speak with people that are not doing what you do, because you never know, what might, come of it. You may learn you'll definitely learn something, and you may be interested in it. You may want to, hey, maybe I'll go down this path, or maybe I'll start looking into this stuff. So
So
yeah, it was.
let me ask you a question before we wrap up. You
Yeah.
mentioned mentoring veterans, and you've been into the military and all that, right? Um, um, Let me ask you, and I see this is a very common path that they take from military and go to the cybersecurity. Of course, government supports them with the education and everything. Critical thinking, that's an important piece. So, like when you see those guys, and like I'm just curious to know when people in veteran going to like how much like learning but critical thinking and the skills they run on the field, how close they work in the field of cybersec.
Yeah. So here's the thing: everybody's experience in the military is 100% different than what everybody's just different, and everybody's experience is different. There's people I know who I've worked with who used to work for the NSA, and they were in the military, but they worked with the NSA. They worked doing some very cool offensive red team stuff, or signals intelligence, or you know way different fields than I was in. And so you'll know, it comes down to the person and what field they were in. But a lot of veterans, and all of my friends who got out around the same time that I did, they all transitioned government contractor jobs. So they all work for companies, but that are contracted by the government. So they all work on military bases
Mm,
as civilians. And you know, critical thinking, when you're in, definitely sometimes it can be taken out of it, right? Because you just do what you're told. Hey,
mm.
I need you, like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's like, you get this done, we need this
Commands,
done, like,
yeah,
there's
they just command you.
right. And you have to do it because for example, one of the things we had to do every quarter was we had this we had a ATO, authority to operate.
Hmm.
That, and every quarter we had to get scans done. We had to, do the paperwork for the scans, submit them, do additional paperwork every quarter to submit to the big Air Force, the headquarters. And if we didn't get those things done, we had to shut down our network. Like, there was no,
Oh,
so there's, if you're not on it, it ceases to operate. Like, you have to, so there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You have to get it
wow.
done. um and that's where the critical thinking will come in, because sometimes it's like, oh, obstacles or challenges can always appear, right? So you have to
Mm,
be, but I think the military does a phenomenal job of preparing you to adapt and overcome um, any kind of challenge, and really, that's part of why I've been so successful.
mhm,
I work a full-time job. I go to school. I have a 1-year old.
mhm.
Um,
Nice.
I do all this extra stuff on the on my free time. I participate in CTFs. I
Mhm,
mentor. I want to do the podcast. It, I just, there's so many things that it prepares you for. It just prepares you to take on anything. And
mhm,
so I think really any veteran really has those skills coming out of the military.
mhm.
You have those skills and you have the motivation, right? Because now
Right.
this time it's not doing what I'm told, right? It's doing what I want to do.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of
Makes
the people
sense.
I talk to have that drive and the motivation. It's like, I have all these great skills they've imbued me with, and now I can
Yeah.
take them and go as far as I want.
Right. Yeah. One of the common piece I can think of, they already have done the physical security piece of it. So that's another common thing across that. Now that absolutely makes sense. I like that things what we're told now. You like things you wanted to do. That's another
Yeah,
important piece.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that will keep you
yeah,
motivated.
yeah.
All
I,
right.
I
Any other?
think that just I just want to, I'll just end on doing what makes you happy, right? Like, I don't do anything anymore that doesn't make me happy. If it doesn't bring me any joy, or I'm not doing it, I'm not participating. I only do what makes me happy now, and that's what
Right.
it keeps me going.
So yeah, so thanks for everyone. If you're still watching it, if you liked it, let us know in the comment. If you want to see the same content, same conversation, like Aaron and I can go on many different topics which we have not talked about: red teaming, blue teaming, threat hunting. I mean, we can
Absolutely.
get into the weeds of this stuff. I can throw 10 scenarios to him. And then,
Let's do it.
we can do a lot of, and the idea is that just to learn, jobs are there. And for those who are not, like as I explained the reason, but jobs are there. Companies are looking for talented people, and these are the jobs will be there for a long time. So again, if you're interested, let me know. And also, I'll ask Aaron if he can share how he manages his blog or work and projects he was talking about, so you can learn from his as well. And stay tuned for the more podcasts. We'll be doing that.
Project manager?
Yes, 15 years of experience.
Do you have any AI certifications?
No, but I'm a fast learner.
We'll be in touch.
I don't see any AI skills here. How do you plan to stay relevant?
Project manager. I'm sorry, the position was filled by someone with AI credentials.
Stop. Please stop using ChatGPT like.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thanks for joining in another podcast. And this is going to be very first podcast on security in 2023. I'm your host, Adnan Rafiq. This is one of the questions I've been getting a lot on my social media platform. Hey, how do I get started in the field of cybersecurity? In this particular podcast, we will share what are the skills you can learn, and we'll talk about how cloud security is important when it comes to the businesses. And I have today a very special guest, very known person, because I know him because he got very famous in Microsoft, I believe, Ignite conference in US a couple of years ago. His session was like all over. Everybody was talking about it. And he's very known also in Finland. And with that said, I want Sami. I really appreciate his time. And please start introducing yourself. Thank you, Sami.
Hey everyone. So my name is Sami Laiho. As said, I'm from Finland. I'm currently stationed about 40 kilometers from Helsinki, our capital. I am currently mostly teaching people in cybersecurity and Windows operating system internals and troubleshooting. I travel all around the world, speaking in different conferences, and I've been a Microsoft certified trainer for 23 or 22 years now. Had a Microsoft MVP in the core operating system since 2011.
So can you tell us a little bit about your journey? How did you get into cybersecurity?
Well, to be fair, as I said, I started off by being a Microsoft operating system specialist. I used to work in a big training center, the biggest training center in Finland at that time. And I was kind of a household staff trainer, I'd say. So I was teaching, actually, I just checked it out some time ago. I was teaching 42 different classes. So I was basically teaching anything when it comes to Microsoft. And that's beginning of 2000. Security was a module on one of the courses, but it wasn't that big of a thing back then. So I kind of started off there, and then maybe 2012 or 2013, that was the time when cybersecurity started to be more popular. To be fair, I went to all the cybersecurity sessions, and they were, whether it was Microsoft Tech Ed or any other conference, the cybersecurity hacking, cracking, whatever sessions were always like totally crowded by people, and met Paula Januszkiewicz for the first time back then and really loved her sessions. And I the only problem for me always was that when I went to security sessions, if not talking about everyone's sessions, so let's not generalize, but I went to many of the sessions, and my problem with the sessions was that I hated two things about it. One